Welcome back to your passion, purpose, and personal brand. This is Lisa McGuire, and today's episode is going to be a powerful one because we're going to go straight to the heart. And when you hear that, you probably know who I'm talking about. Straight to the heart of what matters in business, authentic connection. So I'm joined by someone who needs no introduction if you hear straight from the heart. But Larry Levine has become a leading voice in what I'd call a much needed movement in the business world. In this world of empty suits, yes, he does say that. He's leading a movement of authenticity, integrity, and trust inside the sales profession. Oh my goodness, we need that. He is the best-selling author, keynote speaker, and co-host of not one, but two award-winning podcasts, Selling from the Heart and Culture from the Heart. And he spent over 3 decades in B2B sales, and he saw what happens when sales becomes more about scripts than sincerity, more about tactics than trust. So he decided to do something about it, and we're going to talk to him today about it. So in this world filled with noise and performance, Larry teaches people how to show up real. And you know, if we're talking about showing up real, that is right in my lane. So I have to tell you how Larry got here. Every Sunday morning at 7 a.m., I see this notification from LinkedIn that tells me that Larry has written this really great newsletter of the week, Selling from the Heart. It's a great way to start the week. And so he had something that really stuck with me. He had this article that I told him I could have written. Here's what he said. In this massive post-trust world, trust is currency and the heart is the vault that holds it. Oh my gosh. So I've read a lot of sales wisdom, but that line hit me in the gut, and I invited him on the podcast, and he's here today. So Larry, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's so good to be here. I've been looking forward to this. I'm grateful that you're having me on and look forward to it. Wherever this goes, it goes, Lisa.
It does. And I have every bit of faith it's going to go where it's supposed to be. We're going to have a real conversation. But Larry, I am an advocate for people who see a need and spark a movement. But I want to go back to, how did you decide to lead an industry, not knowing being about heart? So how did you decide to lead in an industry out of heart when it's not really known for that?
I think it's just deeply ingrained in me. Mm-hmm. And when I say deeply ingrained is, for decades upon decades upon decades, I sold office technology in Los Angeles. Very highly competitive. Some may call it very laggard, race to the bottom, highly transactional type selling. But what I knew worked was completely counterculture again, around what everyone else was talking about. I knew relationships worked. I knew that really connecting at a heart level worked because that's how I was raised. So what I did is I just went against the grain, did the complete polar opposite of what everybody else did. And I said, the more comfortable I can make people feel about me, the more comfortable they become. Once they become that comfortable with me, they start sharing things with me they're not sharing with other people. Mm-hmm. And I just turned that really into my superpower. And it really wasn't until recently when we formed a strategic partner with the Y Institute that I found out that, I'm a high contributor. Mm-hmm. So I believe success happens when I contribute to a greater cause. And that's what I was doing when I was selling office technology in Los Angeles. That's what I'm doing now when I wanted to bring this movement around heart to the forefront. Mm-hmm. It's ingrained in me. And again, I love to serve. I love to contribute. And I go, you know what? The sales world was massively, massively, massively good to me. Mm-hmm. And it helped me raise my family the way I wanted to raise my family. It's just my opportunity at this stage of my career to give back, to share with people that there's a better way of selling. And sales is such a noble profession because if we don't sell anything, money doesn't move through the economy at the rate that it needs to move through. So it's just a matter of how you're going to go about selling it. I just believe that when you can sell with heart, great things happen and you change the whole paradigm of how people view you.
I love so much about that. And yes, selling is a noble profession. You are helping people solve their problems and finding those solutions. But when you say it was ingrained in you, that tells me there was something in your upbringing that you were exposed or encouraged to do that. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So here's what's interesting about all of this. I came from a family that there wasn't any salespeople.
Hmm.
In fact, my father was a rocket scientist for the United States Air Force, and my mom was a clerical worker.
Wow.
However, my mom was the highly relational part of the
Hmm.
family. My father was the planning, the process, the brains, the book smarts. And so what I did is I just smashed both of this together.
Hmm.
And what's interesting is my parents really don't like salespeople. In fact, they still don't. They're 83 years old. I love them to death. They just don't like salespeople. But that's just how they were raised in the time and the place, and, experiences and track records and things like that play a big portion in how they feel. But me being highly relational
Hmm.
and somebody say a little bit entrepreneurial minded, I go, if I like building relationships and I like connecting with people, what better way to do it than turn this thing into a sales career? And that's what I did. So I always say, you're a product in the environment you were raised in. I
Hmm.
believe salespeople are products in the environments they're raised in, which is the companies they work for and how they coach and train them, or conversely, how they don't coach and train them. I was just raised in an environment where relationships meant something. You kind of peeled the relationship onion back. And then I just smashed it with planning, process, and practice that came from my dad's side. So that's kind of how I got to where I'm at and why I'm so passionate about this.
Yeah, I love that blend of two different things that you saw and you were sitting right at the feet of them. How can I take and marry those together and taking who you are authentically, Larry, who you are and building it into your process. So let's go back to something you said. My parents didn't like salespeople and they still don't like salespeople. And I don't think they're alone in this world. So let's look at the prevailing wisdom of why do you think so many people have that opinion of salespeople?
I mean, we could spend hours talking about it, but if, for time's sake, I just think it's the sales world's done it to themselves. And again, I'm going to poke the bear on this one a little bit. And I'm pro sales. I'm pro everything about sales. But salespeople, sales managers, sales leaders have created this atmosphere and this perception because they've made it all about themselves, right? When we look at shining the light, I'm a big person who believes in serving, so I believe you shine the light on others. But for decades upon decades, the sales world's made it about themselves, their product, the commissions, I always say the love them and leave them, right? Yeah, you say all the wonderful things, you make the sale, and then after the sale, you kind of go away and you only come back when there's an issue or there's an opportunity to sell something else.
Mhm.
And what's really interesting, I'm a massive, massive Dr. Henry Cloud fan. And
Okay.
I try to read as many of his books as possible. A couple years ago, I read his book actually titled Trust. So the front of the cover was trust, and then the bottom part of it was the upside down trust. Really cool cover. But it was 5 pillars of building trust. And what was really interesting is the third pillar is everyone's previous track record of their interactions with salespeople.
Mm.
And so if we look at where people come up with this perception they don't trust salespeople or whatever excuse or whatever words or phrases you want to use around it, it's because their previous track record that's been ingrained in their head, ingrained in their heart of I was burnt, something happened, I had a great experience that turned into a bad experience because everything was great until they sold me something and then they just went away.
Hmm.
So it doesn't have to be that way. It really does not have to be that way. But it's just I'm a massive believer in perception.
Hmm.
And it's so funny when I'm in companies and I start at the very beginning, I said, what's the perception of salespeople like? What words would you use and things like that? It's really interesting, Lisa, to hear the words coming out of salespeople's mouths as it relates to the words people would use to describe salespeople, and they're in sales. So I just said, let's just face it, perception is reality.
Yeah.
Whether people want to believe me or not, it's their perception based on their reality. So if you want to change the perception of how people feel about salespeople, control what you can control. And that's how you show up to change their perception of you.
Yes, because it starts one person at a time, right? It's one person who can break that. I mean, look at what you've done. You started, you were sharing before we got on and pushed record, you started this with a podcast. So talk a little bit about that. How long ago did that start?
Oh man, oh gosh, our podcast, we're going on 9 years now. And it was, I came out of the office technology world. So did my podcast partner, Daryl Amy. He came out of the office technology world. And so we were just coaching and training sellers, sales leaders, and all that inside the space that we already knew. It was comfortable. People knew us and so forth. But I just said one day, I go, you know what? We got to jump over the fence. I mean, we're in this niche, really microscopic sales channel. And I'm a big believer in this. And this was like the lightning bolt moment for me, is a prophet's not welcome in their own backyard.
Mm, so true.
And I really, really, in my heart, I believe that. And for some reason, I sensed I was being squashed.
Mm-hmm.
And so one day I just said, hey, Daryl, man, we got to hop over the fence on this. And basically, I convinced him to start a podcast only under one condition. I had to come up with a really cool name. And I'm a heart-centered, highly relational guy. I knew Daryl loved a book called Wild at Heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, hey, let's just call this Selling from the Heart. And he goes, ooh, you're onto something.
Yeah.
And that was 9 years ago, not knowing what would happen. But 9 years ago, launching this podcast forever changed my life, Daryl's life. It transformed what we do. It turned this into a business that born 2 books, another podcast, and some really, really great opportunities to meet some really heart-centered companies.
Well, I'm going to congratulate you for that because 9 years, that longevity, that really says something. And I know people will come to me all the time and ask, I want to start a podcast. They'll say that. And my first question is why? Because
Yeah.
it's not something that you just enter into lightly. I mean, it really takes a commitment. And as we just heard, it's paid off greatly for you.
Well, you know what's interesting? The word you use, commitment. But in order to have commitment, you got to bring consistency and discipline to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a glitz and glamour guy. I'm just a very disciplined, oriented person.
Mm-hmm.
And I just know if you do things, the right things, consistently and with discipline and for the right reasons, good things happen. And I don't chase the shiny objects or the silver bullets. I just knew that if we consistently podcasted week in and week out, month in and month out, quarter over quarter, year over year, good things would happen. It would open up doors. It's the same thing with why I write. I've literally, for the last 10 years, I have written a weekly article nonstop while I'm on vacation, when I don't feel like it, when I can't think of anything, I just pause. But I've held myself to that commitment that every week I'm going to do this. Every day I'm going to do these things. We're going to podcast once a week. And it's just when you do these things, and it's the simple things. Mm-hmm. I've always said, if you can't do the simple things with consistency and discipline, you can't do the difficult things. It just doesn't work.
Right. And, I think too, when we look at this, Larry, this consistency, even when we don't want to do it, right? Because I have the same thing is there's times when I'm like, oh, I've got so many other things I could be doing. But when I know that by consistently showing up, by giving my best, by interviewing the people I know my audience wants to hear from,
Yep.
that develops such a degree of trust. Like that is earned trust that you can't get anywhere else. You can't. I guess the best way to look at this is
I just think, again, this is my opinion, is we live in this microwave society where everybody wants instant results. They want instant gratification and so forth. Yeah, I love what I do and I'm grateful for doing it, but I play the long game with all of this. Yeah, I have some short-term vision, right? Because we have to bring in revenue just like everybody else, and we were concerned with profits just like everybody else. However, if I look at this going, how can I marry my short-term thinking with some long-term vision? If I can do both of those things, great things happen. That's why even today, at this stage of my career, I hold myself radically accountable to doing certain things every single day.
Yeah.
It's the simple things, how I connect with people, how I engage with people, how many meetings do I do on a daily basis, how many meetings do I set somewhere on my calendar in a 2 week period. I just do these little simple things, just repeated day in and day out, because I know I'm playing the long game with this. And if I do this consistently, great things happen. It's just that's my challenge to people out there is in this short-term thinking, in this vacuum we all live in where we want instant results. It's hard to bring discipline and consistency to the forefront because we're chasing all these silver bullets and shiny objects.
We certainly are. So I want to get to this catchphrase that really, so it says it all. But yeah, I want to know more, right? So no more empty suits, such a powerful call out. Could you unpack what does that mean for you? And what do you see happening in the gap between performance and presence?
Oh, so good to hear performance and presence. As I was writing Selling from the Heart, I had to put a bow on the whole entire book.
Mhm.
And I wanted, and again, this isn't to cast shadows and say I hate salespeople and things like, because that's not the point behind where I'm going to go with this. But I wanted to wrap up the book in a way that got people to think. And what better way to get people to think than call out the sales profession?
Yeah.
And it's just my way of saying, hey, listen, if you're not engaging, if you're not exciting, if you're not educating your clients or your future clients, if you're not connecting to these people with meaning, if you're not serving these people, if you don't have their best interest at heart, they're going to view you as nothing more than an empty salesperson.
Mhm.
All style, no substance, things like that. And so the whole point behind chapter 10 in Selling from the Heart is to call out the big elephant in the room and get people to think.
Mhm.
And by the way, if we don't think, and if I can't get sales leaders and sales managers and salespeople and executives to change their mindset, nothing happens. But I know in order to change someone's mindset, I got to get to their heart.
Mhm.
And sometimes it might sting a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's the whole purpose behind this is I love the sales profession. I love everything about it, but we can do so much better. But if you can't transform your mind and connect to your heart, you're a little on the empty side and people sense this. And that's what I really want people to take away from this whole catchphrase, no more empty suit. It's not demeaning, but you can take it however you take it. It's just to get us to think.
Mhm.
And the reason I bring this up is we always ask the signature question on Selling from the Heart, Lisa, what's it mean to you to sell from the heart? And this goes back years and years and years ago. We had a guest that said, it's hard to sell from the heart if you don't know what's in your heart. It's
Mm.
hard to sell from the heart if your heart is broken.
Yeah.
And I'm going to submit to the sales world out there. There's a lot of people who have broken hearts and they don't know what's in their heart because they're chasing all this outer level of success
Mhm.
and they haven't flipped the switch.
Mhm.
And if you want all this enormous outer layers of success, just like we all do, you got to open up the cupboard of who you are and you got to look inside. Am I full or am I empty?
Yeah. Okay, I'm about ready to jump through the screen and hug you right now. I'm just going to say, this is what I so fully believe in, Larry. And I think the thing is, we have been given this picture of success, however it looks for you, however
Yeah.
you want to apply it. And I call it the script that we follow, right? You're telling me this is a story I have to write in order to achieve this place. But what happens is we get to a certain place and then we say, is this all there is? Or this isn't the story I wanted to write. And yet we're stuck because we don't know who we are. So that's where we get to this looking at your heart. And really want to call out the world has told us and glamorized thinking, IQ, your mind, data, all of that. How do you counteract this prevailing narrative that the mind is superior to the heart? How do you bring in this idea?
It's so interesting. And I say this because I'm not the smartest guy out there. I'm be the first one to admit. But what I've really honed in on was two things that I think are missing. I mean, data plays a part in what we do.
Sure.
Analytics plays a part in what we do. It's ingrained. It's ingrained in all of us now.
Yeah.
However, there's two missing links that I see that I'm trying to bridge and bring all of this together. It's the people skills and it's the relationship building skills.
Mhm.
We're all humans. It's so interesting. You hear the phrases, we got to sell like we're human. You got to connect at a human level. Well, great. How do we do this? What we're doing here and what I really believe in is data and analytics and all this can tell a little bit of a story.
Mhm.
And it might help you understand where you're at. But until people, when I say people, sales leaders, sales managers, CEOs, presidents of companies, until they're willing to coach their people on people skills and relationship building skills, I believe this, they're leaving monumental levels of revenue and profit on the table.
Mhm.
And what's people are messy, humans are messy, relationships are messy. But if we're always chasing the numbers, if we're always bringing data and analytics into all of this, knowing that there's humans in front of all of this, we're leaving something out there that's left untapped. That's the potential of your people.
Mhm. Yes, and I think too in this, if we know that we can sell more, if we know that we can serve better by bringing in these people skills, why do you think that leaders are not seeing this or doing this? Is it they're ill-equipped or they don't know where to start? What do you think's going on?
I mean, I think maybe it's a combination of all of that.
Mhm.
Because if you peel back the heart of a CEO or president, I mean, their whole life they're being judged by revenue and profit. If you really boil it down to this, it's getting them to think different. I know they want to see their companies succeed. I know they want to see their people succeed, but they have all these external pressures and everything that's on them that sometimes they just haven't slowed down long enough to look at this through a different lens.
Mhm.
And so I know there's heart-centered CEOs and presidents and sales leaders out there. I know there's authentic sales leaders and CEOs and presidents out there. They just have to be given a roadmap and a guide as to how to get them there. And a lot of times people, and I'm making a blanket statement on this, people will go through life with the blinders on, right? They're just better example. They're cruising on the interstate or the freeway in the center lane, and they're not looking to the left or to the right. They're just honing in, driving 65 miles an hour straight down the middle of the freeway until somebody says, "Hey, by the way, you missed the off ramp,"
Yeah.
type thing.
Mhm.
So, you know, this is just about removing the blinders and helping
Mhm.
people see and achieve things they don't believe they can do on their own.
Mhm.
And that's kind of my whole mission in getting, executives to think different about their business and their people is, yeah, we can do this based on data and analytics and all these trailing, indicators that you all have, which are KPIs that you judge people on. But until you get to the heart of your people and really understand their makeup,
Mhm.
what makes them tick and what are they capable of, you're going to leave revenue and profit on the table like none other.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. I see that in company cultures. I see that in really nearly everything
Yep.
is until we can connect relationally, it is going to be transactional. We're going to be seen as commodities, and there's just such a deeper level where we can go.
Well, it's interesting. If as an executive, if you treat your people as a transaction,
Hmm.
guess what?
Yeah,
Don't be surprised when they go out in the field and they just mirror what they've been taught internally.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
what scares the you know what out of me is how many executives. So now, right, I'm pushing this upstairs in companies.
Hmm.
How many executives that sit in the upstairs of businesses really do not understand what makes their people tick?
Hmm.
What do they want to accomplish? What are their dreams, their goals, their vision, their aspiration? But yet, they're all housed in the same building. If you're all in the same building, or they're, in the virtual doorsteps of your building.
Right.
There's so much that executives can do to connect to the hearts and mind of their people. I've always said, if you can connect to the hearts and mind of your people, they will literally run through a brick wall for you.
Hmm.
They will model that behavior out and into the community and into your clients.
Absolutely. The way to grow that revenue, like if you're modeling it, then your people will see it. And that's the expectation you set of how you are going to interact with clients as well.
It's the way you interact as an executive has a direct bearing on
Mhm.
how your people interact. And again, I'm not bringing any PhD level stuff to this conversation. I don't even have a PhD behind my name. It's just real world experience based on my observations and the companies that I've worked with who's integrated selling from the heart to immediately see people and leaders transform the way they completely interact with people. It warms my heart to see companies who weren't selling from the heart, that were dysfunctional, but they took a flyer on me and the message in how we coach, and then to see their cultures transform, not only at an organizational level, but to see the cultures transform in a sales department and to see the results we're getting as fast as we're getting them is
Mhm.
because I just believe that when you shine the light on other people and you get them to see and achieve things they don't believe they can do on their own, which is inspiration, influence, and impact, real fast, these people are moving the revenue and profit needle
Yeah.
real fast and are going, holy smokes, I didn't know I had that in me. But it's like we're coaching them and giving them the permission
Hmm.
to do it.
Yes. And I think that freedom, they can move along. But this goes back to the article that prompted me to even reach out to you, Larry. You talked about the fact that we think that we know our clients. But you know what I have here? What many thought was a relationship was just transactional familiarity. You and your clients were strangers all along, just strangers with polite smiles and shared agendas. So that really stood out to me. Just like it's like we're playing this game, right? We're in this play. I'm going to say this, you're supposed to respond this way. Can you explain how that false sense of connection plays out and what it's costing us?
Oh, well, first of all, I just believe this. It's costing us millions of dollars as leaders. And it's this, I don't know why, but these are the words that come to mind. It's the smoke and mirrors that we create as salespeople, which just be, and I'm just going to use, since me and you are speaking, I'm just going to use you and I as an example. Let's just say I'm the seller and you're my client, Lisa.
Okay.
And just because you buy things and occasionally I stop by and we have some nice little small talk and Lisa smiles and we slap high fives and I walk around and I make sure everything is okay. And I send you the occasional email. We have great email dialogue and occasionally I stop by and we have some great conversation. Most salespeople believe that, man, that relationship's rock freaking solid.
Mm-hmm.
But what I think is a relationship based on all of this may not be what Lisa thinks the relationship is. And so here's the opportunity. So I want everybody who's listening or watching to follow along with me on this. And this might be everyone's mirror moment. And I literally get sales teams to deeply reflect on this. So here it is. I want everybody to think of their best client. However, you're all right. I'm going to leave that one up to you. However, you determine your best client, that's up to you. So just picture in your mind your best client. That's the one when you're having a bad day, something negative's happened, you pick up the phone or you go see them and they put a smile on your face. Everybody has one of those really good clients. But conversely, if they went somewhere else, it would really hurt really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to think about this because this is going to go into relational strength here. If that's your best client, then here's what I want you to think about. Do I, as a seller, I, as a leader, I, as an executive, do I know their goals, their vision, their dreams? What do they want to accomplish in the next 90 days? What's the toughest thing they're working on right now? What do they need to remove off their business plate? My friends, if you can't answer any of that with your best client, you're relationally vulnerable right now. Conversely, there's massive opportunity for you to take this to the next level. If you can build what I call Fort Knox relationally with these people, they'll come back for more and more and more and more of what you have to offer. If you're not willing to ask those questions, then don't be surprised when something happens somewhere down the road. May not happen right now, but it's probably going to happen somewhere down the road.
Yeah, that's sharing that because what I hear in that, Larry, is we're sharing this emotion, like a dream that I have, a goal that I have. I'm emotionally tied to that, right? And so when someone can be transparent enough to show that with you, that I think is what increases that connection.
It's just willing to have the relationship that you really want to have.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, in my personal relationships, I deeply care about my personal relationships. I love my friends. I love my family. Why can't we do that professionally?
Yeah, yeah, a really
Because
good point.
because this is what goes on my wacky head. If we don't bring deep levels of compassion and love to our professional relationships, do you think our personal relationships might suffer because our what we do professionally does impact what we do personally? It bleeds
Mhm.
together. Just stop and think about what I just said. Because when things are clicking, when you're bringing compassion and care and love professionally to what you do, something tells me you got some really strong, harmonious personal relationships.
Yeah, I really agree with that, and I think people that try to put professional and personal in two different boxes, I always say personal development is professional development. You can't leave yourself in the parking lot and show up and give your best because, I mean, you're a robot, right? That's what you end up being.
Yeah, if you struggle to personally develop yourself, you're going to struggle to professionally develop yourself.
Yeah.
You really and what's really interesting about this is ego gets in the way so many times.
Well, and I think that's where that performance shows up, right? But if we can know who we are, like you were talking about that, know who we are, then we don't have to come in having to prove and have to perform. We create space for that presence in there, in that
Yeah,
relationship.
no, I totally agree. And here the bigger issue and the bigger question out there, Lisa, is how many people truly know who they are?
Hmm.
It takes freaking work.
It does.
It takes work.
It does.
You got to commit to this stuff on a daily basis. This is just from experience. I'm 60 years old. I've learned more about myself in the decade of the 50s
Hmm.
From 51 to 59, I learned more about myself than I did in my 20s, 30s, and 40s combined.
Yeah, I've seen that over and over, Larry. It really does. And so when we're looking at the word authenticity, because it's in your book title, right? Authenticity. I get a lot of people that look at me of, I don't really know what that means, or, oh, it means they confuse authenticity with transparency, right? What does authenticity mean to you?
It's simple, and again, this isn't dictionary definition or anything like that. This
I
is
hear
just
you.
what's in
Yeah.
my head and what I hold myself accountable to is congruent walk and talk.
Mm, nice.
Does my walk match my talk?
Hmm.
And when it doesn't, I feel sick about it,
Yeah.
right? And I say this all the time. Authenticity is a lifestyle. It's not a light switch. We're all
Mm,
authentic. Let's just get this out on the table. We are all genuine, authentic human beings.
yes.
It's how we choose to carry ourselves.
Hmm.
Some people choose to carry ourselves and right?
Hmm.
I can't control any of that. All I can control is how I show up.
Yeah.
And in a world that's lacking trust, it's got rampant skepticism that people are saying one thing and doing another thing. I
Hmm.
do know this when you bring your authentic self to the forefront because you've done the work and you know you've done the work and you feel comfortable in bringing this out into the open, great things happen.
Yeah.
But to me, I sum up authenticity as congruency of walk and talk because to know thyself is to value thyself. And I just love getting to know myself every single day.
Yeah. And some days it's a real surprise.
Yeah,
Where did that
it
come from?
is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So if somebody's saying, listening to this, well, this sounds great. I built my entire career, though, on performance. What would you say to encourage them to make this shift? Like, where do they start?
Hey, by the way, good question. By the way, I've built my whole entire career on performance. Spend any lick of time in sales, you're judged on performance,
Absolutely.
right? Let's just face it, you're
Yes.
judged on performance.
Hmm.
However, if you want to, I'm reading, I love reading. I'm a massive, massive book reader.
Yeah.
I am reading a book right now that has just rocked my world on performance.
Mm,
And it's called Inner Excellence by Jim Murphy.
okay.
And this book kind of hit my radar screen when I was watching the Super Bowl this past February. And for those of you who don't, the Super Bowl is National Football League. Y'all know the Super Bowl. But I saw the Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver on the sidelines with this book in his hand. And the camera zoomed in on it, and it was Inner Excellence. And so I just went to Amazon, chucked it in my basket, bought the book. And I had to get through a stack of books before I started. And I'm like deep into this book right now. And it's all on if you want to enhance your performance. Thus, the title of the book, Inner Excellence. You got to go inward.
Hmm.
So, if you want, for all those in sales who want to increase their performance, you got to look inside of who you are. And what's interesting, he said, if you want to transform your results, it's about love, wisdom, and courage.
Mm,
And
nice.
so if I wrap this into what we do at Selling from the Heart is we're leading a movement based on authenticity, integrity, and trust because we love what we do. We're bringing wisdom to the forefront to help others see and achieve things they don't believe they can do on their own. And I'm massively courageous about it because there's not many people digging in deep like I'm digging in deep. And I knew when I started doing this, people would poke holes at me.
Yeah. Well, anything that is transformative is going to take some work.
Yeah.
And so I think having that courage to step out there and see a need and advocate for it and start this movement. But Larry, you spoke about this before, and this was one of the questions I really wanted to ask is you've asked hundreds of guests, what does it mean to sell from the heart? So I'm going to flip the script, flip the mic, and ask you, what are some of your most favorite or surprising answers you've heard from people?
I shared probably the two biggest ones just, a little bit ago on, during our conversation is I've heard it all and then some, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
got 9 years of all of this.
Yeah.
But to hear, it's hard to sell from the heart if your heart's broken. It's hard to sell from the heart if you don't know what's in your heart.
Hmm.
Those two, out of all the responses that I've gotten, those are the two that have been deeply ingrained here
Hmm.
and in my heart. Because selling from the heart takes work.
Yeah.
It's about bringing your whole self to the forefront. And I always say it's hard to connect to others' hearts if you can't connect to your own heart.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of broken salespeople out there. There's a lot of broken sales leaders and managers because sales is such a, I write about in Selling from the Heart, it's such a full contact sport.
Hmm.
You're going to get knocked down. You got to get back up. It weighs on your heart, especially if a vast majority of your income relies on commissions.
Yeah.
So if we're not working on our heart and connecting to our heart,
Hmm.
it's going to wear on us and it's going to wear on us and it's going to wear on us. And that's why the state of mental health in the sales world is abysmally low.
Hmm. Yeah. I think it's really what I'm hearing a little bit in this, Larry, is putting your oxygen mask on first.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, of doing that. So as we get to the end, and thank you, there's so much wisdom in here. Like I thought the Sunday newsletters were great. This is great to have a conversation with you. Um, we're living in what we call a post-trust world, right? So what gives you hope that we can rebuild it?
Again, it just, what gives me hope is me. And here's where I'm going with this. It just goes back to so many people focus on things they cannot control
Hmm.
and they dwell on it and they dwell on it. They get consumed with it. But you know what? I can control me, how I show up, how I interact, the words I use, the messaging I use, and how I inspire other people. That's what I can control.
Hmm.
So in this post-trust world that I write about in selling in a post-trust world, if more people focused on how they showed up, they stopped paying attention to the noise
Hmm.
and they led with inspiration and influence and tried to be as impactful as they can with every interaction, these small little incremental steps will just start mushrooming and people will start talking and people will start taking notice. That's what I hope people get away from our conversation, any interaction with me. I stopped watching the news a freaking long time ago. I don't even pay attention to it. I have friends that come up and say, "Hey, did you hear what I said?" Well, I have no freaking clue what's going on. I choose to keep my mind focused on the things I want to focus on. I read the things that are inspirational to me. I feed myself with good vitamins and minerals to keep my brain fresh and all that because I've been down the toxic roads before.
Hmm.
I still got to deal with it. But the less I pay attention to the crapola out there and the less I pay attention to all the negative smack talk, the better off I am, the more healthy I am.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's really putting up those boundaries to protect you so you can be forward thinking on this mission, this movement that you're trying to create. Because if you think about it, what you do here in those messages are fear driven things to bring us down to this low, the lowest of low, right? To get in the muck when our heart is not there. Our heart is a much higher place.
Yeah.
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 I thank you. Well, Larry, thank you so much, not
Oh, it's my
for the
pleasure.
wisdom, but just for modeling what it like is like to show up with heart. Your message is so much more than a sales strategy. It's a human strategy. So thanks for being with us. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best place to find you?
I'm not too hard to find. I mean, you can find me all over LinkedIn, so it's just really easy. You can just go Larry Levine on LinkedIn. You can find me. Just go to sellingfromtheheart.net. And then if you want to follow the podcasts, there's Selling from the Heart podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms. Culture from the Heart. You can find it. Culturefromtheheart.com. You can find our podcast on YouTube.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Lisa.
All right. And to everyone listening, here's your invitation. Stop hiding behind the playbook. Start asking better questions. Get to know their clients and not just their business, but their beliefs, their fears, their humanity. Because as Larry reminds us, you don't become essential by being impressive. You become essential by being real. And if you haven't already, I encourage you to read Selling from the Heart, subscribe to the podcast, follow Larry on LinkedIn. We'll have all the links down in the show notes where his post will challenge you and inspire you to bring more sincerity to the way that you connect and do business. So until next week, go chase your passion. It will reveal your purpose and put you on the road to finding your legendary self. We'll see you here next week.